Thank you, Mr. Nagraj, for very informative lecture. I have two questions. One is you did not mention anything about, or at least I didn't recall you mentioning minimum support price as an issue, which is in the north a very big issue in farmers of Punjab when they are demonstrating that is a issue of minimum support price, and the government or state organized markets where minimum support price is practiced. And in Karnataka, from where you're speaking, is there such a thing? Are those markets there, and do they have minimum support price? And is that part of the struggle also? And the second question is, yes, the farms are small, 80%, but what about the rural proletariat? Means people who work on the farms for others but do not own it now. Do they benefit from the present system? I know that they will not benefit from the ownership of the corporates. So against corporates is very clear, but what about this relationship between the farmers and the peasant, the proletariat, the farmers, the people who work on the farms as workers for the peasants? Could you address these two issues for me? Thank you.
And next, Mr. Sharath.
Yes, thank you for this excellent and comprehensive talk. I have two questions also, and one of them actually is related to Raj's question, and that is that because now we have this very corporate assault on the agricultural sector in India. I think we confront one of the major questions of class in agriculture, and that is building the unity of the small farmers and the agricultural proletariat. Now, because this is an assault against these two classes from the outside, namely the corporate sector, does this present an historic opportunity to unify the peasants and the rural proletariat? That's one question, and I think you can take that together with Raj's question. My other question is that globally there are four giant monopolies that control the food trade, and we call them the ABCDs, and those are Archer Daniels Midland, Brown Boveri, Cargill, and Louis Dreyfus. And I'm wondering, there's no place on earth where the ABCDs do not try to penetrate and operate behind the scenes, buy into interest and so on. So my question is that behind the corporatization of agriculture in India, are the ABCDs playing some role?
Thank you, Sharath. Next one, Mr. Sandeep.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Even I have two questions for Comrade Nagraj. So my first question is about cooperative farming that you just mentioned. Are there any global case studies that India can learn from in terms of template? I know that it has to be contextualized in India's political economy. And my second question is that, I was at the protest site yesterday and in Delhi outside the border, and I saw thousands of farmers. Now, the question that I have is, can there be a political formation that will emerge out of this? Can the farmers make their own political formation and fight elections? Do you see any, has there been any political experiment of that sort in the past? Thank you very much.
I did not touch on this question of minimum support price because it was touched by my previous speaker in this series. And this minimum support price is not the question only of Punjab farmers or Haryana farmers or Western UP farmers as it has been projected. Actually, the farmers of the whole country are in dire need of minimum support price for all producers, all farm produce. Now, minimum support price is being declared for 23 crops, and government supports this minimum support price with procurement in only 2 or 3 crops like rice and wheat. That is the problem. Actually, say recently in Kerala, they have supported, they have declared support price for even fruits and vegetables, which government of India is not at all thinking in the past 70 years. And this they are supporting with procurement. If what is the meaning of minimum support price? Declaration of minimum support price is, say, something like, if it goes below minimum support price anywhere in the country, then immediately the government mechanism will step in and procure that produce so that the prices rise again about the minimum support price. This is the principle behind this mechanism of minimum support price. And what is this minimum support price? It is something like you are ensuring wages for the farming family. Farmer, his wife, and say anybody else who is engaged in farming in that family, you are ensuring them some minimum wages after, you see, about 3 months or 6 months of the crop duration. After 6 months only, or after 3 months only, when the farmer goes to the market, he will come to know whether he will get his wages. This is the kind of situation. Therefore, say now surveys have said that more than 95% of the farmers in India would like to leave farming. They would like to sell farmlands because they are not getting, profits, but they are the farmers are losing, on the other hand, whatever they had because of losses, very big losses. Therefore, they would like to leave farming. If that happens, what is the question of livelihood and what is the question of food production? And in such a situation, say several lakhs of farmers have committed suicide in various parts of the country, including Karnataka. And therefore, the farmer organizations, farming organizations of farmers of the whole country joined together, especially after the Madhya Pradesh firing on farmers. You see, they joined together to demand a separate act for minimum support price. And that was even before this Modi government amendments. That is 2 years, 2 years ago, this demand was made, and a bill was introduced in the parliament also. A private member's bill was introduced by MPs from Maharashtra, Kerala, and various other states. But the government did not care. Millions of farmers assembled in Delhi to demand this. The government did not care. Therefore, it is not the question only of Punjab or Haryana. It is the question of the whole country. If the farmers have to survive in farming, if the farmers have to earn their livelihood in farming, and if the daughters and sons of farmers come out of this serious malnutrition, which was found in a very recent survey, that millions of children are wasting, are under that category of wasted or stunted bodies. And in such a situation, if they have to come out of that, then this minimum support price is very much necessary. And the farmers in Karnataka and farmers around the country, they have up in arms to get this demand fulfilled. It is not just for Punjab farmers. In Karnataka, they have not reached Delhi because there are no transport facilities because of the corona restrictions. They have not yet been fully, gone back to the pre-corona days, the transport facilities like railways and various other things. And therefore, they cannot reach Delhi, traveling thousands of kilometers. That is the position why farmers from southern India or eastern India have not reached Delhi. Otherwise, they also would have joined in several tens of thousands. But what is happening is, in Karnataka, when there was a call given for bandhs on November 28th, there was a bandh in whole of Karnataka. In several district and taluka places, voluntary bandhs were there. Only in Bangalore, you can say it was partial. But in all other cities, it was full. Or in most of the cities, it was full. And in such a farmers of Karnataka and even other sections of Karnataka, they are supporting this struggle through those activities. And just now, since say about 10 days, a continuous dharna or sit-ins are going on in Bangalore, where hundreds and hundreds of farmers come there and protest, and then a new set of farmers will come from new areas and join that protest. That's going on. And in these sit-ins that is happening in all over the country, in the state capitals and in many states, in district capitals also, say a lot of agricultural laborers are have joined, and as part of this Kisan Sangharsh Samiti or All India Kisan Sangharsh Coordination Committee, there are tens of organizations of agricultural workers or agricultural laborers. I belong to one of them, that are called Karnataka Pranta Krishi Kulikar Sangha, which is affiliated to All India Agriculture Workers Union. Therefore, the agriculture workers have also joined in this struggle because their future is also at stake. And therefore, now from Maharashtra, more than 10,000 farmers have left day before yesterday to join the Delhi farmers from this southern side. And many such things are happening to intensify the struggle. And there is even on December 8th, there was an All India Bandh call, and it was very successful in many parts of the country, including Karnataka. Therefore, the support is there, but only thing is, say, just because they cannot reach Delhi and because they are not able to sit there on the highways, it doesn't mean that they are not in struggle. They are conducting the struggles in various other forms. And even in West Bengal, probably more than, 2-3 millions of farmers were part of these agitations in the past few days. Continuous agitations are there in Kolkata for the past more than 20 days. Continuous agitation. Every day there will be some agitation or the other to in support of farmers or by farmers themselves. Therefore, this support is there in the whole country. And it's only the government propaganda or Ambani propaganda through Ambani media, you can say. Then coming to the question of rural proletariat, that is the agricultural workers. Of course, I belong to this agricultural workers organization, as I told you. And I was working as an agriculture graduate, I was working in a Kisan Sabha. But when I saw the plight of agricultural workers, I started writing about their problems, which is much more severe than the farmers. Then Comrade Harkishan Singh Surjit, who was the Kisan Sabha president at that time, All India Kisan Sabha president, he advised me to become part of the agriculture workers organization and start this organization in Karnataka, which was not there in Karnataka at that time. And so therefore, for the past 2-3 decades, I am working among the agriculture workers. And what I have seen is that say very serious situation is there because there is agrarian crisis, because farmers themselves are in crisis, and the work, actually the availability of work itself has very tremendously reduced for agriculture laborers in rural areas. Say it has come down to just 80 days in a year or even less in certain areas. Therefore, this the lack of work or unemployment or disguised unemployment, you can say, is a very serious situation. And that is why the All India Agriculture Workers Union and Kisan Sabha raised this issue during the UPA government. And now we have Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, which can give these families some work at least for 100 days in the year. But we want the government to expand it to whole year or something like 250 days minimum. And also, we want them to raise their wages. Therefore, the Agriculture Workers Organization, with the help of Kisan Sabha also, is striving and struggling for this. Recently, in the November 28th Bandh and November 26th and 27th struggle, this was one of the main questions, expanding the rural, say, the Agriculture Workers Guarantee Act, and we also demanded it should be brought in cities also. Not only in rural areas, there should be an employment guarantee in towns and cities also. And the wages should be raised to a minimum level of 500 rupees to 600 rupees a day. And therefore, the demands of agriculture workers is coinciding with the demands of the farmers, and they have joined together. But in this struggle of farmers, the participation of agricultural labor may not be to the same extent as farmers, but they're there in the struggle supporting. And then the question, that's as Mr. Sharath said, this is an historic opportunity to wield this unity, not only say between the farmers and the agricultural labor. It is also an historic opportunity to have the Kisan worker unity or peasant industrial worker unity. In a very big way, industrial workers have supported this struggle, and during their general strike on November 26th, one of the major demands is withdrawing of this bill and then expansion of the rural employment guarantee scheme. Therefore, this kind of convergence is developing. Of course, it is in the initial stages. And it has to develop to and get deep-rooted in villages and towns and cities of the country. But it has started developing. That's a very, very important sign. And then the farmers, for the first time, you can say, in the country, they have recognized the agents behind the government. That is agency behind the government. That is the corporates. They have targeted Ambanis and the Adanis to some extent. And in Punjab, of course, it is a very wide popular consciousness of the rural people that it is Adani and Ambani who are behind these acts and all these say crony capitalists. But in other parts of the country also, this kind of consciousness is spreading. That is an historic achievement of this struggle, you can say. But of course, again, it is still a beginning, and it has to spread to the entire country in the coming days. And well, this ABCDs, the four big monopolies, they are behind these acts. Actually, I think I told in sometime during my lecture that say the free trade agreement talks are going on between India and Europe, and then between India and US also. During these talks, one of the main demands from Europe and the US is changes in the agrarian laws of the country, in Land Reforms Act and even APMC Act and Essential Commodity Act, all these things they are demanding. The Walmarts and the various other such retail chains, you see, they are demanding such amendments from US and Europe. Therefore, this monopolies, ABCD, are behind this. Especially Kargil also had its operation in India since several decades, procurement of various agricultural commodities, including wheat. And a farming community in Karnataka had to wage a struggle against Kargil also in at certain period of time. We have attacked the Kargil godowns for that matter. And then the rural proletariat, on one side, they should get more work through this employment guarantee, expansion of the employment guarantee scheme, and they should get public distribution, strengthening of public distribution system, so that all the food articles can be given at cheaper rates for them. And then the question of land distribution, as I was telling, as part of the land reforms, one of the main aims of land reforms was imposing ceiling laws. That is the weakest point in land reforms of the whole country. And except in West Bengal and Kerala, this ceiling laws have not been implemented properly. And therefore, in Karnataka itself, there are, you can say, several tens of thousands of people who are owning more than 1,000 acres or more than 500 acres. There will be several tens of thousands more. And in one taluk where I went for a count, you see, there were just one taluk, one county. There were more than 182 farmers with more than 500 acres. And there were more than 680 farmers with more than 100 acres. After implementation of so-called very rigorous land reforms in Karnataka, which was posted by the Congress government at that time. But this is the situation. Therefore, a very rigorous implementation, very serious implementation of land reform laws in the country, even now can get millions and billions of acres out of the control of these landlords, and they should be distributed to the agricultural labor, especially with a preference for Dalits. And that is the scenario where the rural proletariat will get better livelihood. That is, land to a big section and better wages and work all through the year. These two things combined will improve their livelihoods, and the unity between the farmers and the agricultural labor can also develop in such a situation in a much faster rate. And then coming to Sandeep's question, let me take this question of political formation. Well, as of now, we can only see some initial signs. More than 24 political parties parties have supported farmers' protest, and they have come out in opposition with against the farm laws. They are demanding the repeal or withdrawal of the farm laws. That itself is a very significant thing. But that doesn't end up in political formation on its own. But the farmers' movement in Karnataka, I will give you one example. In Karnataka, since independence till in 1983, continuously Congress ruled. In 83, there was a big upsurge of peasants, where it is at that time when I resigned the government lucrative job in government as a district level authority or officer. And at that time, when this big peasant upsurge rose, the longest duration of Congress government in India, you can say, in Karnataka, it was overthrown and the opposition party, that is Janata Dal, came to power. Therefore, this kind of impact will be there on the people. This kind of impact will be there on the people, and this consciousness that rises amongst the people against the divisive communal activities of the Sangh Parivar and the government, and bringing unity amongst the peasants, agriculture workers, and working class, that will certainly have a political impact. It will lead to some solution at the political level also. And this we have seen several times in the history of India, as I was telling about Karnataka also. And a similar situation happened in Andhra also, that long-term ruling of Congress was overthrown because of the peasant unrest. And therefore, this impact will be there, and we are hopeful that this impact will be there. But regarding this cooperative farming, yes, cooperative farming is so many types of cooperation is prevalent in the world, especially Europe mainly, and it is from many experiments of Europe. India has also drawn inspiration, and in India, this Amul experiment. You know that about Amul experiment, or the milk revolution, or white revolution as it is called. You see, it is a big cooperative endeavor. Though, not at the production level, it is at the procurement to the level it reaches the consumer. All operations are under the control of cooperatives. It's a very giant operation in the country. And in Karnataka, emulating that experience, we have a series of stores called Hopcoms for horticultural produce. Vegetables and fruits of the farmers are procured by these cooperatives and sold to urban consumers. Though it is not to the scale of milk federations or the Amul type of things, but still there are some such examples. Therefore, instead of cooperative procurement, you can have, instead of corporate procurement, you can have cooperative procurement. And cooperatives are there. There is Consumer Federation in our country, and there is also agricultural cooperatives and their federations. They can be given, they can be strengthened, and they can be more democratized, so that the farmers will involve more. And therefore, the already existing chains of cooperative societies, even this, we were proposing to the Karnataka government during this corona problem, even during say this corona, the milk procurement and processing and supplying into the urban consumers did not stop. That chain worked very efficiently even during that corona period of lockdowns. And we were recommending, we were demanding of from our state government that even vegetables and other perishable agricultural produce, which farmers are not able to market because of the lockdown condition, no transport and no shops being open. Therefore, we demanded that this chain, this milk chain, cooperative chain, can be used very easily to procure vegetables also and get it to the cities. It can be done in a matter of few days if you just give them some financial support, because the mechanism is already there. And therefore, such a thing is possible. Such a thing is possible even in India, with this example of, say, this Milk Federation. And of course, almost every village is part of agricultural cooperative. But they are now, as of now, they are credit cooperatives and input supply cooperatives. They are selling fertilizers and things like that to the farmers, and they are giving some loans to the farmers. But those, say, cooperatives, their scale of operations and the dimensions of operation, it can be expanded. And therefore, the mechanism is already there. The main thing is they have to be democratized and expanded with the help of the government, and they can sustain the corporate onslaught. And that is, therefore, that possibility is there. And I think I have dealt with all the questions that was raised.